Yo, yo, Happy New Year. Let's begin. Question 77 through 83. Okay, so 77. A piece of wood that is 4.5 feet long is cut into two pieces of different lengths. Okay, two pieces of different lengths. The shorter means strictly smaller, has a length of x feet. Okay, so let's draw a picture for this. Which inequality expresses all possible values of x? Alright, so you have a piece of wood. You can draw the wood like this, okay? But I'm just gonna make this like a ruler, right? Let me just take the length of the wood. And then I cut this wood into two pieces, so something like this, and they're different lengths, right? And they're saying that the shorter piece has a length of x feet. So let me put the smaller piece on the left side, okay? So let me redraw that. So let's say this is x, right? And I know that the total here is 4.5. Well, then that means that the remaining piece here is 4.5 minus x. Okay, now if you want to see why, think of a simpler problem. If I said this is like 11 and this is 4, then this piece has to be 11 minus 4 or 7, right? So it's the same thing but with fractions and with letters. Okay, and now you need to find out what are all possible values for x. Okay, so first of all, these are talking about length, so I know that x has to be greater than 0. And I also know that the shorter piece is x, so that means that this is true. This is true. X is less than 4.5 minus x. Okay, and also I know that 4.5 minus x has to be less than 4.5. Okay, so now what can we do here? Let's play with this. Okay, that inner inequality has to hold. And then let's see what happens if we try solving for x. Okay, so let's gather up all the x's. So we add x on both sides. And then what do we get? We get 2x is less than 4.5. And then dividing both sides by 2, we get the x is less than, well, this number is 4.5, so x has got to be less than 4.5 divided by 2 is 2.25, which is the same as 2 1/4. Okay, so then we know that this piece already holds. Okay, so it looks like these three have it, and then x is less than 2.25, it's got to be this. Okay, A. Okay, great. 78. What is the area in square units of the shaded region shown in the figure above? Okay. Notice that that shaded region can be found by first finding the area of this purple right triangle, and then finding the area of this yellow triangle. The fact that it's right is irrelevant here, okay? So just pretend I just said regular triangle, okay? So what you're doing is you're taking the purple triangle and then you're subtracting the yellow triangle, and that'll give you the shaded region, okay? Now the question is, how do you find the area of a triangle? Well, remember, area is equal to 1/2 base times height. Okay, so now let's first find the purple triangle. So I'll just call this outer, since on the test you won't have colors. So the outer triangle here, the base is 20. So outer is 1/2, base is 20, times the height is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10, 10 times 20 is 200. Inner triangle, the yellow one, well, the base is, so it's 1/2, base is 10, and the height is 15. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 5 times 15 is 75. So then that means that the shaded is just the subtraction of these two. So let me subtract 200 minus 75, that's got to be 125, which is F. Okay, 79. Yesterday in Centerville, the highest Fahrenheit temperature F was 86 degrees and the lowest is 68. what was the difference between these two temperatures? So we need to find the difference, means that we have to subtract these two temperatures, but it's got to be in degrees Celsius. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, well, Fahrenheit is just like you think of this as a language of expressing the temperature, okay? So if I'm saying that this is 86 degrees Fahrenheit, I can just convert that to another language, right? Celsius. How do I do that? I can use this formula here, okay? And then I could do the same thing for this, right? 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and you just find the corresponding temperature in Celsius. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is by working with this equation, but I'm going to express it in terms of C. Okay, so I have to solve for C here. So to do that, I'm just going to subtract 32 on both sides. Okay, and then I get F minus 32 is equal to 9/5 C, and then you multiply by 5/9 to get C alone. Okay, so the formula that I'm really using is going to be 5/9 times F minus 32 is equal to C. And I got to use it twice, one for the 86 degrees and one for the 68. So let me plug in the 86 in here first. So if I do 86 and then I subtract with PEMDAS, what is that going to be? 54. 54 and 5 times 5/9. 54 times 5/9, 54 divided by 9, that's 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, so that's going to be for the 86. Now I got to subtract it. Now let me find the 68. So let me plug in 68 here instead. 68 minus 32, that's 36. 36 times 5/9, this is 4 times 5 is 20. So it's 30 minus 20, which is equal to 10. 8. Okay. All right. 80. The x being an odd number. In terms of x, what is the sum of the two even numbers closest to x? Okay. Well, let's think about it like this. We know that when you're counting, right, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth, that odd, even, odd, even. Okay, so the odd, even alternates. Okay, so if now they're saying that let x be odd. Okay, so we don't know exactly where in this list x appears, but if x is odd, then that means that the closest people are the ones on its left and on the one on its right, okay? So that means that here on the left, it's got to be one less than that is x minus 1, and that's even. And its neighbor on the right is going to be x plus 1. Okay, so those are the two closest even numbers. And then they're saying sum, so that means we got to add these two. So that means x minus 1 plus x plus 1. The ones cancel, you're just going to get 2x, which is just f. Okay. 81. In 1991, the total public debt of the United States is about this much. Oh, it's a lot. 36912. That's 3.6 trillion. In that year, there were about 250 million people in the United States. Which amount is the best estimate of the public debt per person for that year? Okay. So intuitively, what this is saying is that this country, America, has a ton of debt, okay? This much debt. And then there are a certain number of people in America. Now, this much. Now, if I wanted to evenly divide this debt, right, and distribute the debt, that's just a division problem, right? That is going to give you like an average amount of debt per person. That's what they're asking for, okay? And here the average is, they're saying estimate here, but that's what it means intuitively, because technically not all people have the same amount of debt. But yeah, anyways, I think the intuition here helps, because now you know that what kind of problem this is. This is a division problem, okay? So you need to find the public debt per person. So that means that I'm going to take this debt, the public debt is this, right? So what is this number? That's a huge number. So a main topic that this covers is scientific notation, I can remember how I was counting earlier. I said this is 3, 6, 9, 12, right? So I could think about this as 3.6 times 10 to the 12, right? Because if I put a decimal here and I were to jump enough so that the decimal is all the way at the end so that it becomes that whole number, right? That's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, and that's where I got that from. Okay, now I got to divide that public debt by this amount of people. Well, you have to review your scientific notation. I should make a video on that in the future, right? But here, I'm gonna make this a 2.5. So let me zoom in here. If I make that a 2.5, I put the decimal here. Now, how many jumps do I need to clear this? Well, this is going to be 1, 2, plus 3, it's 5, plus 3 is going to be 8. So that's times 10 to the 8. Okay, and now the answer is just going to be this, okay, because this is the amount of debt per person, okay? So scientific notation is very convenient because you can just simplify by doing this math first, and then you can do this math, okay? So 10 to the 12 divided by 10 to the 8, using your laws of exponents, you know that this is going to be 10 to the 4th, right? And now I got to do this 3.6 divided by 2.5. And now just to review, to divide decimals, you're going to jump this, make that a whole number, So the decimal goes here, and then I'm going to put 2 zeros here and see how to divide this. Now 25 goes into 36 once. Subtract, you get 110. 25 goes into 110 4 times, so it's 100. And then you subtract, and then you get another 100. It's going to be 1.44. So this piece becomes 1.44, and then you do 1.44. This is still a times here, times 10 to the 4th. So 1.44 times 10 to the 4th is, you just jump 4 zeros to the right. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put the zeros here, and then you're going to put a comma here after 3. So it's going to be $14,400, which is B. Okay. Next, 82. In the figure above, n is the midpoint of MQ. So n is right in the middle of that, okay? This is MQ. Yeah, FMQ. Great. So which segment has length 2x minus y centimeters? Okay. Look, if n is the midpoint of MQ, that means mn, that's half of MQ. That's x. So this piece is x. So NQ also has to be the other half, so it's got to be x. So that means that this whole thing is 2x. Okay? That's just 2x minus y. So that means I'm taking the whole thing and I'm deducting y. So let me look at the picture. 2x and I'm deducting y. Where's y? Y is here. Okay? So this is, the whole thing is 2x and you're subtracting this. So then that means that the remaining piece has got to be PQ. So it's got to be E. Okay? Okay. Last question. What is the area of the parallelogram shown below? Okay, this is not that bad. Okay, so to find the area of the parallelogram, you're going to do, you can use the formula, area is equal to base times height. And now the base, I'm usually looking here, but then it's okay, the base is also this. Why? Because opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent, right? So that means if this is 30, the opposite side here is also 30, okay? And then the height, yeah, it's just how tall it is. Think of that intuitively. You could, it gets a little more complicated, but you'll see that more in like high school geometry. But just know that has to make the right angle with like the floor. Okay, anyways, so base is 30, height is 20, so that means just 30 times 20, so just do 3 times 2 for the quick math, that's 6, and then there's 2 zeros, 600, so it's got to be B. Okay, great. That wasn't bad. Alright, hopefully this made sense, and I hope you guys are well. I'll see you soon. Bye.